All right, so we always want to read the whole sentence. Notice things like our subject, our object, and our verb, and then other things like this participial phrase describing my subject, the nervii, repulsed, and yes, with a perfect passive participle like repulsi, we could have by something, but that something wouldn't get an ob because it's not a person, and it's just more likely that they were repulsed from this hope, right, of having a chat, right? Repulsed from this hope, or like thwarted from this hope, the nervii surround the winter camp with a wallow of this many feet and with a fossa of that many feet. These things, and I want it to be like and other things, but instead I get a totally different case happening. I've got of the previous years, and then I'm like, oh, that's ablative. Ob nobis, that's a different ablative expression, and then cognoveron. And then I got another et. So I'm like, they had et cognoveranted hike. They had both learned these things, right, object and verb, from the custom of previous years, from us, right? They had both learned these things from us because of the practice of previous years would be another way to translate that, right? And what else? Oh, nope, relative clause instead. And they were being taught by those whom they were keeping, like whom of the army, or whom they were keeping from the army secretly as captives, right? So they'd learned this surrounding of the camp. They'd learned these things, or sorry, they had both learned these things from us, from the practice of previous years, and they were being taught by those whom they were keeping from the army secretly as captives. All right, that's how they got some intel. But nulla looks like, nope, doesn't go with feramentorum, does go with copia, probably my subject, quae esset ad hungusum idonia, gladiis caespites circum cidere, manibus sagulisque terram exhaurire nite banter. Looks like maybe it is explaining another infinitive. I had to look it up real quick. This looked unfamiliar. Your book has a different version of the text, has videbanter here instead of nitebanter here. Those words are very similar looking in manuscripts over time, and so there's two different manuscript traditions that have each of these words. Anyway, I prefer nitebanter. Videbanter is fine too. Both of them explain these two infinitives, whether they seemed to circumcidere and to exhaurire, or whether they were struggling. This is a deponent verb nitor that means to struggle. So I like to struggle better because I think it makes more sense. So it's like, because no abundance of tools, right? No abundance of tools, which was, or which were nominative suitable for this purpose, or which were suitable for this use. We almost have to like reuse the esset as like a eis esset. We really want to say like they had, you know, but they had no abundance of tools which was useful for this purpose. Or really, I don't really want to say they had, because my main verb is down here with my nitebanter or videbanter. So I might say like, but having no copia of feramentorum quae esset ad hungusum idonia, they seemed, or they were struggling to circumcidere, like to cut, like that's our scis, like as in scissors, to cut the sod, the clods of earth with their swords, right? Object and then infinitive. So they were struggling to cut the grasses with their swords, comma, to exhaurire, to like drain out, exhaust, or to remove the earth, sagulis, right, to remove the earth with their manibus. No, I have to use the, okay, right. There is no and connecting my infinitives. They were struggling, or they seemed to cut the clods with their swords, to remove the earth with their hands and their cloaks. They don't have the right tools. They don't have shovels, so they got to use their swords, and they don't have wheelbarrows, so they're using their hands and their cloaks. Qua quidem ex re hominum multitudo cognosci potuit. I'm going to say, like, indeed. I'm going to put the qua with ex re, like, from this matter, from this situation. And then as I looked, I got my subject and my verb. The number, or the multitude of people, the number of their men, was able. This has got to be because of potuit, the infinitive, right? The passive form of cognoscere, to be learned or to be determined. So indeed, from this matter, the multitude of men was able to be, or the number of men was able to be learned. 4, minus horis tribus millium pedum quindecum in circuitu munitionem perfecerunt. That's a verb. I haven't seen a subject on the way to it. So 4, they finished the fortification, or a fortification, of that many, right? Millium pedum is miles in the genitive case. Oh no, not miles, that's mille passus. 15,000 feet, which is like 3 miles, right? 15,000 feet, not passuum, in circumference. So they finished a fortification, or they finished a wall, really, of like 15,000 feet in circumference. Minus oris tribus has got to be in less than 3 hours. Reliquis diebus, probably like on the remaining days. Tures could be my subject. Falces testudines could be subject. Relative clause. Parare ac facere quae parent. These are my objects, right? So in the remaining days, they began to do these things, to prepare and to make tures, right? Turrets or towers up to the height of the wall. Falces are grappling hooks, and testudines can be translated as mantelets. It is a tortoise, right? But it's like a movable shed. It's like a big platform with a fence in front of it, right, that protects the troops as they push forward to conduct a siege. So it's like a big, there's like a wall, made up of wood on a platform, and you can put people on it, right, and they can get up close. They can approach, right, a Roman camp, and they can't be hit with stuff, right, because they've got this testudo. It may have like a little cover over top, right, movable shed that they use. So they began to prepare and to make tures up to the altitudinem of the walli, falces, and testudines, all of which are sieging equipment.